people like have everybody anticipating, okay, what are we going to talk about? When's this going to get started? I will say I am gonna just go deep on seller leads. Let me just tell you that, everybody. So while you're waiting, I hopefully it'll be worth it. I'll do my best to make it worth it. But we are going to go deep on the seller lead conversation today.
All right, great. Looks like we're probably good to get started. We'll keep letting some people in if they're trying to get on. But I'm Travis McClure. We're here with Easy Home Search. Honored to have Greg Harrelson as our guest host today for Winning Wednesday. He's gonna, as he said, go all things seller leads. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of your way, Greg, and just let you run with it, man.
Okay, man. Well, that's great. Well, thanks everybody for offering up your time to listen to me talk. And I take this very seriously. I know that we're all busy and we dedicate time to invest our time and prioritize our times in different ways. And for you to give me some of that time today is fantastic. I'm not here to sell anything. I am a Easy Home Search a client. And I'm also, friends with not only the founders, but a lot of people that work at the company. And I'm just here to be a contribution to the Easy Home community. So that's what we're here. Nothing to sell. Just only thing I'm pitching is I'm pitching some my knowledge and my experiences around the listing process. So let's dive into it. As a matter of fact, I've got some notes I'm going to go through just in preparation for today's talk. And my goal is if I get through all those notes, I might even open up a call recording and do an actual critique of an agent call. And because I just know that there's just this disconnect where people are wanting more listings. And I actually am not a believer that one should be a listing agent or one should be a buyer's agent. I'm really not like that's so meaningless to me. But because it seems like the perception is the buyer's agents work harder than the listing agents, then everyone wants to be a listing agent. That's very common. Yet we don't see a lot of people excelling in the listing side business. And quite frankly, it's easier to list properties today than it has been in the 30 years that I've been doing business. It's easier. Now, sure, are less people answering the phone? Yes, but that just means I make more attempts. So that's something that I can control. But there's other things that have developed over the last 10 years that has made it a lot easier. Like there are sources to get listing leads, to get seller leads. And I'm going to kind of go through like some different sources and I'm going to share with you what I hear agents saying. I'm not going to ask you if you say it because you wouldn't want to admit it. But I want to share with people what they say about seller leads. And then hopefully I can influence you or convince you that it's the story that we're telling around the seller leads that's creating the lack of conversion that agents are getting with seller leads. Now, part of this conversation is stemming from I actually get seller leads from Easy Home Search as well as other sources, but I do get seller leads. And I hear what these seller leads are saying. If you've ever got an online seller lead and called them because they were looking for what's my home worth, has anyone ever called one and said, and they said in return, I don't know. No, I must have accidentally clicked something. Has anyone ever heard that? Yeah, that's a lie. Okay, accidentally clicking something, here's how that looks. I'm in browsing. I'm actually, let's just pretend I have a mouse or I'm doing this. Okay. Now to accidentally click, it's like, okay, maybe as I swiped up and I was scrolling, maybe I pushed too hard and it happened to push on a link. That would be accidentally clicking something. But these leads have to do this. Interesting. What's my home worth? Wow. Then they have to put the second hand on their phone, if you're like me, and they have to do this. Gregharrelson. Gregharrelson at gmail.com. 843 XXX. Don't want everyone texting me right now. Then I have to do a final click. Final click. Submit. There's no damn accidental clicking anywhere online when it comes to these leads. But then you know that that's the number one. There's three versions is, oh gosh, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do anything. Or I must have accidentally clicked something. Or I was just curious. Those are the three most common things that people say when you call with an online lead. And let me tell you, they're all just smoke screens. None of them are real. Just like when you go into Nordstrom's and they say, can I help you find something? You say, no, you're just looking. And then you walk out with a big old bag of goods. That was a smoke screen that you gave that salesperson. You know, we are masters at giving salespeople smoke screens, and so is the rest of the universe. So all we have to do is just acknowledge step number one, that these people are not accidentally clicking. Yes, they are curious, more curious than they lead us to believe. And yes, it was them even when they said it wasn't. Very rarely was it their 5-year-old son that clicked the mom's name perfectly. And the mom's email, the 5-year-old son doesn't know the mom's email. How could they have clicked it perfectly? That's where it starts. So I'll dive into this a little bit more, but let's just go into, I'm going to keep this simple. I actually, on the top of my notes, I just want to give you the simple code for seller leads. I'm not going to go into as much of expireds and FSBOs and whatnot. I'm really referring to inbound leads that we can now retrieve and capture online so easily because it's low-hanging fruit. By the way, if you're wondering, well, you know what? They don't really convert. Let me tell you something. That's incorrect. It's incorrect. I will tell you how they convert. They convert at 10% in a 12-month period of time. I can tell you, those cash offer leads that you guys hear about, or maybe some of you are getting like, oh man, these guys, I'm on a cash offer, close in 7 days and all this. Like these people, they don't want a cash offer. None of them want a cash offer. Do you know that they convert at around 18% in 12 months? But you know what the problem is with the conversion of home value leads being 10% and cash offer leads being 18% is the conversion rate on the first 30 days is very low. And because the conversion rate is very low in the first 30 days and an agent doesn't have a system to follow up for 6 months, the agents will always tell you the conversion's terrible. Yes, because they only tried them for 1 week and they didn't convert. They declared them as a bad lead, a dead lead, a junk lead, and they just moved on. They got the smoke screen and said, that person's not, they didn't even mean to do this. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you need anything, here's my contact information. Boom, they're gone. 3 months later, it lists. So you've got to understand that there is a conversion ratio that is inconsistent with what the industry as agents say the conversion ratio is. But we who know the systems know that the conversion is extremely high. I only say this, again, there's nothing to sell here, but I just want you to make sure that you no longer, after today, you no longer believe the stories that you've been telling yourselves as an industry when it comes to seller leads. So seller leads, for instance, there's all kinds of ways. What's my home worth? Cash offer, these are like all versions, or online referral sources. Some of you use HomeLight. Effective agents, maybe Agent Pronto in your market, offers leads. These are all like lead sources that send. Those would be lead sources that you could sign up for, and for a referral fee, they'll send you the leads. You pay them on the back end only if you make a sale. which is the ones I like. I don't like the pay up front, the $75 and stuff like that. I like the referral fee on the back end side when it comes to if I'm going to use third party sources. So when I'm talking about seller leads, that's what I'm talking about today. Home value leads, cash offer leads, referral sourced leads from people like or companies like HomeLight. There's a dozen of those referral companies out there that you don't have to pay for unless you perform. So that's how we can originate these leads. But let's talk about approaching these leads. How do we approach these leads? Because this is where I have to spend a lot of time working with my agents is how do we approach these leads? A first few things that I can think about. You've got to call them quick. Yes. The whole concept of speed to lead applies to these also. Yeah, unfortunately, one of the biggest reasons why in any lead generation that there's not more conversion, whether it's the buyer side or the seller side, one of the biggest reasons why there's low conversion is because we're too slow to get to the lead. What you've got to be thinking of is you've got to be thinking like it's an Easter egg hunt and there are few other kids are trying to find that golden egg. And when you see those young little kids, when you let them loose at an Easter egg hunt, man, they're on it. They're dashing, rushing, bumping into each other, knocking each other over to get to that, to find it first. That's the mentality. That's the mentality. Now, some of us might not like that. I don't know why you would not like that. I mean, it's no big deal. It's just speed to lead. Just get the lead and immediately call it. That right there, like if you were to call a lead within the first 3 minutes, there's studies out there that show, I was just looking at a study the other day that says there's a 400% increase chance that you'll get them on the phone if you call within the first 3 minutes. A 400% increased chance if you call within the first 3 minutes. Now, when I thought about that, and somebody said this to me, I can't remember who it was because I'd love to give them credit. It was some other coach I was talking to, and I don't even know if they knew what they were saying, but darn it, it was profound to me. And they said this. The reason why that's true is because if you get them in the first 3 minutes, they're probably still on the computer digging around, exploring information about what's going on in the market. But if you get them after 3 minutes, they've already probably been distracted by the child that just spilt the spaghetti, all over the floor. And now they got to go clean up the floor in the kitchen. And then all of a sudden in the middle of that, then they're like, okay, now I got to get back to work. So after 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, we are no longer calling them while they're in the moment of real estate exploration. We're calling them and interrupting them and interrupting some other area of their life. If you do not get them in the first 3 minutes, after that, you're an interruption. That's why they don't pick up the phone. You're interrupting. They've moved on. They're no longer in the real estate exploration space. They're now in the manage the kids space or getting back to work space. So if I'm managing, if you've got stuff spilled all over the house because of the child, guess what? You're not taking the call either. And then once we call them past the 3 or 5 minutes and we don't get them on the phone, we leave a voicemail. They don't check voicemails that often. And when they do, they don't return voicemails from strangers. That's not something we do. You don't do it either. Think about the voicemails you get. Heck, I don't even check voicemails. I haven't checked a voicemail, and I know this will sound crazy. I'll have to give you a little bit more information. I haven't checked a voicemail for probably 4 years. Most people in my life know that every voicemail gets checked by my executive assistant. It's been that way for 4, 5, 6 years. And then she tells me the ones that I need. So, like if somebody was to leave me a voicemail, she wouldn't even tell me some salesperson left me a voicemail. That would not ever come to me. I'd never know that that happened. And you all are doing that in your own way. You guys filter it that way too. So we leave a voicemail, then we don't get, or we don't get them on the phone. We leave a voicemail, then we don't get a return call. And then what do we make up in our heads? They weren't that serious. It's not a good lead. This is what's going on. And in the meantime, that lead is going unattended to, continuing their exploration and finding somebody else to list their property with sometime within the 12 months. I will say, just for you, some of you that are thinking, gosh, I don't want to wait 12 months. Okay, I got it. The biggest bulk of conversion comes in month 3, 4, and 5. The biggest bulk. So if you were to generate these leads and you were really to take this serious and follow some of the guidelines I'm going to share with you today, you want to make sure that in your in whether it's task, whether it's activities, whether it's your action plan, make sure it gets really heavy in month 3. Because month 3, 4, and 5 is when the highest probability of their conversion. Out of the 12 months, it'll be those 3 months. So you want more things going out, more communication at that time for them to trip over and bubble up and say, oh, I need to call this one now. That's how that happens. Now, so back to approaching them, you got to be quick. You got to do multiple attempts. Multiple attempts. You should be attempting between 9 and 11 attempts to get these people on the phone. Now, that's not going to be all within the first hour. Don't do that. But 9 to 11 attempts. Remember, GREGHAR. Remember all those digits that they took the time to click through. They even misspelled their name and they had to go delete, delete, delete and start over. They did it again. And then they hit the submit button. It's worth it to make a few extra attempts. Look at what they had to do. Look at the buy-in that they had to go through to even give you their information. And do you think they didn't know you were going to call them? They knew you were going to call them. They knew you were going to be sending them emails. They knew you were going to text them, and they still did it. To me, that's all I need to know. If that seller or that owner is willing to go through that, then I'm willing to make multiple attempts to reach them. I've got to talk to somebody that's willing to do all that, knowing I'm going to call them and I'm going to try to get their listing. Then it's worth it for me to call them multiple times. Multiple attempts in the first 48 hours. While you're making multiple attempts, you got to use multiple forms of attempts. You're using the phone, you're using the email, and you're using the text. These are opted in leads. These people have opted in. You can text them, you can email them, and you can call them. And to me, it would be like this: call, text, email. Text, call, email. I don't know how many that 9 was. I was trying to give you a little bit how I flow it. It's a call, which would be the double dial, then text. And if you want to get more engagement, then the first text that you send after the double dial within the first 3 minutes would be a video text that you pre-recorded a video. And you just said, hey, Travis, I just left you a message. My name's Greg Harrelson with XYZ company down in Myrtle Beach. I thought you might find it appropriate for me to put a face to a voice so you kind of know who was calling you. I've been sending you a little bit of information regarding your property's value, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions. Could you just let me know maybe the best time to reach you? See, that recording right there, I never mentioned their property. I never mentioned their name. So once I record it one time, I've got it saved in my phone. I call, hang up, boom, text, move, next. Double dial, video text. Now, a lot of people are, so I really don't like what I sound like or look like on video. Well, you kind of know what I might say to that. Well, If you're not going to send a video because you don't like the way you look, then how do you ever meet anybody? Because they're going to see what you look like anyways, right? You can't hide. Well, I don't like the way I sound on video. I can tell you right now that you sound the same on video as you do in person. It's not, you can't just like not talk to people because you don't like the way you sound. Let's just get over that resistance, follow this process, and watch your conversion go through the roof. So we've got here, how do we get them? How do we approach them? Like when, from the attempts. Now let's talk about the conversation. So I'm just keeping this simple. Let's talk about the conversation. Here's a no-no. Don't be too direct. Well, Gustavo, I'm going to have to answer that question. Greg, what's your take on AI automation helping with the initial contact attempts? This is a Greg Harrelson answer. Okay? Greg Harrelson answer. And you can think that I'm not up on the times on tech if you want to. And I will be proud to show you I still use yellow notepads. But there's very few of you that are going to be taking more listens than me. Thanks, Eric. I love your yellow notepad. No, I do not believe in AI automation. No, I don't believe in autoresponders. And the reason is not because that's not an advancing in a decent text. It's because as soon as you allow an agent to use that, they will then hide behind technology and never make another phone call again. That's why. Shots fired. Thank you, Gustavo, for asking, and I enjoy communicating with you on the Facebook page a lot. You have a lot to contribute. So let's go back to the conversation. The conversation. I'm going to keep it simple again, but my first point is don't be too direct. And let me give you an example. Hey, Patricia, I see you were wanting a cash offer on your property, so you're going to sell, huh? Like that is just way too much too fast. Because remember that they're kind of like they put their information in, but we know the most common things to say is like, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. I must have accidentally clicked on something. I'm just curious. So you go in really direct, knowing that that's what their responses are anyways. You go in really direct. Oh, I see you're requesting a cash offer and I just wanted to, talk to you about selling your property. Oh, no, no, no. I'm not really interested. I was just kind of curious. That's going to really make them, force them to take the I was just curious position. You by going into direct, they're going to say the same thing that we're going to say, but they may say it with more force. No, I was just looking. I'm really not interested in doing anything. Because you came in so direct, then they're going to come in and counter that with making sure that they stop you in your place and don't go any further. Oh, I see you were just checking your home's value and wanting to find out what your property's worth. So when do you plan on selling? Too direct. No, it does not work. The agents that are doing that are the agents that are no longer doing that because they've already declared that the leads stink, so they stopped doing it. But they also stopped calling these leads. Take your time and ease into it. So if somebody has just got a cash offer or a what's my home worth, if they're coming in off of something like that, which by the way, most online seller leads are coming from some variation of what I just said. I mean, there's a few different ones. Sell your home in 24 hours, no agent. There's all kinds of different, but it's all just a slight different variation of the few little examples that I'm giving you. Okay. So I'm generalizing, but it's not overly general. It's pretty on point here. Take your time and ease into the conversation. Hey, Eric. Hey, it's Greg Harrelson here with XYZ Company down in Myrtle Beach. I've been sending you some updates, on the prices of properties like yours. And I think I sent you one recently. And I was just wondering if you had a chance to take a look at it. And what did you think about that price? Did you think that price is maybe a little high, maybe a little low, or you think it's kind of right on the money? So I've skipped over. I just got this alert that you were looking for a cash offer. Oh, I didn't do that. That's what they're going to say. And then now you're recovering. You're trying to recover from this. Oh, well, I've got well, yeah, you did. No, I didn't. Well, yeah, you did. No, I didn't. Well, somebody did. Well, wasn't me. Now, why waste our time in that dialogue? And if you're not really in that dialogue verbally, you're in that dialogue. It's just nonverbal. You're not advancing. The way we advance is through that conversation is don't go through that conversation. You immediately just say, hey, Carol, hey, it's Greg Harrelson, XYZ Company down in Myrtle Beach. I just wanted to touch base with you. I've been sending you some updates on property values and specifically sent you a recent price estimate, an online estimate of your property's value. And I just wondered if you received that and what you thought about that price. Did you think that was a little bit high? Look, they were just looking at the home valuation within the last 180 seconds. They just clicked on it. So they saw the home value. And it catches them off guard. We bypassed all this. Well, are you selling? And I got this alert. And it's just like, what did you think? And you'll see a lot of them will say things like, well, you know what? I thought it was a little bit low, or they'll just move right into that conversation. And as soon as they say, well, I thought it was a little bit low, I was hoping for a little bit, it would be a little bit higher. Yeah, I get that all the time. And it's one of the reasons I'm following up with a phone call, because the online estimates can be very inaccurate. You never really know if you can rely on them. But tell me a little bit about your property. I mean, what kind of condition is your property in? When you ask that question, they start to defend their property. Well, it's this and this and that. And they may say, oh, it's in great condition, but hey, look, I just want to let you know I'm not really selling. Hey, no problem. I'm not in the business of trying to convince you to sell, but I am looking to make a connection and maybe provide some value to and give you some information about what your asset is worth in today's market. I mean, realistically, do you think that you might sell in the next year or two? Yeah, it's probably going to be towards the end of the year. And so I'm getting the information out of them by just taking my time and easing my way into the conversation. Now, in the event that you do go and get somebody and they convince you that I'm not selling, I was just curious, I'm definitely not selling, I will promise you 10% of those, or they still are going to fall into the 10% conversion. They are still converting. So what you want to make sure you do is you do not discount a lead based on how the first conversation ends. However it ends, I just say to myself, that's how it needed to end for them to feel comfortable. But it's not the end. Because I call that same lead back, or I send them a nice email. Hey, thank you. And then I have what we call a listing presentation template where I can send an email that almost kind of summarizes a listing presentation. And I blast that out to them right, within later on in that day, say, hey, I really appreciate the time we had on the phone. I just thought I'd give you some additional information. If you ever need a good resource, I'd be glad to help you. And then boom, a week later, I can call them and it's a whole different conversation. This is how we crack the code on these leads. Cracking the code on these leads. Next thing, get into their home ASAP. Get into their home. We got to be very careful on these leads. Like, I mean, look, I know a great listing appointment is what I would call a bona fide listing appointment. I know that they're willing, able, and they're capable, they're willing, they're motivated. They've got clear reasons why. Yeah, I wish every appointment was like that. But if we keep waiting and have these rules where the only person I'm going to meet is if I know that they check off this list and this list and this list, I promise you, you are missing so many listings. Now, I am also not saying go and just like if somebody says, well, I'm not selling and I'm never going to sell, you're going to have to take me out of here in a pine box. I'm not saying go set an appointment with that one. There's those that are clearly not doing anything, and those that are clearly thinking about doing something, that are doing things, and there are those that are clearly in the process of thinking of doing something. So when we think about a funnel, usually you hear conversations about a funnel. You hear the top of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel, or the middle of the funnel. What we want as agents is we wish and dream and hallucinate that we can get all leads at the bottom of the funnel. So it's like contact, appointment, listing. But there's very few people at the bottom of the funnel, and it's not likely that's where they're being captured. So I like to look at it this. Let's take the top of the funnel. The top of the funnel, I call that the dreamers. They're in the dreaming phase. The middle of the funnel, I call the explorers. They're in the exploration phase. And the bottom of the funnel, I call the actual sellers. They're in the selling phase. So I don't necessarily say go out and meet with every dreamer because that would cost you a lot of time. We know you're going to meet with every seller. But you know who we're missing? We're missing the explorers. The ones that are sitting there like they're 6 months out from making a decision. If somebody's 6 months out from making a decision and you provide a lot of value, they could potentially be 2 months out from a decision once you've added value to them and you've helped them understand the process. So what we're doing is we're delaying going and meeting to people until we're convinced that they're at the bottom of the funnel. They're the sellers. And if you ignore these sellers or potential homeowners, if you ignore these homeowners while they're in the exploration phase, they are going to ignore you when you are in the selling phase, when they are in the selling phase. That's how these leads work. This is not like an expired. We rush to call them an expired. You know what phase they're in? They're bottom of the funnel. They are sellers. So you got to go in hard. Let's convert them. If you don't, you lost them. They're already done. I love that category. I love that source, by the way. But these leads are usually, they're not at the bottom of the funnel. They're in the middle of the funnel. They're explorers. And explorers are fantastic to work with because they're probably not working with other agents yet. They haven't went that far. They're exploring online. You just captured them. Go be with them and help them through their exploration by providing value. Don't go in too fast and furious with them. Ease into it. Establish rapport. They are going to let you in their home. And they will move to the bottom of the funnel. That's why we say 10% conversion ratio. The biggest bulk of the conversion ratio is in which months? 3, 4, and 5. You know what that means? That means it's month 3, 4, and 5 that most people transition from explorer to seller. That's what it means. Going back to approaching them. The biggest reason why agents are discouraged with online seller leads is because of when I talked to you about the smoke screens. So you've got to master getting through the smoke. You've got to master it. I was just curious. You just got to master it. Like, don't fight them with that. Say, hey, I can appreciate that. And I would love to provide some additional information to kind of share what's going on in the market. So you almost, when somebody says, I was just curious, you almost take on the mindset. Well, of course, everyone's just curious. It's not like that was a bad thing. It's like, well, of course. I mean, I'm curious too. Like it's normal. See, what they're doing is they're using it. They're hoping that pushes you away. I don't know if you've ever been to a department store, retail store, and somebody says, can I help you find something? And And although a lot of salespeople wouldn't use an open a yes no question like that. Could I help you find something? No, just looking. So it's a terrible retail question to ask. But when you did say no, whatever question they did ask, have you ever had one like ask another question? It's like, hey, could I help you find something? No, I'm just looking. Well, hey, let me ask you this. I mean, what kind of occasion are you looking for? Like I'm telling you, we wouldn't know what to say if the retailer asked one more question past the answer. I was just looking. One more question. It doesn't even have to be a good question. If they ask one more question, I'm telling you, we will all verbally vomit. Because the script book said when a retailer says, can I help you find something? You say, no, I'm just looking. And realize the script book did not continue. The script book didn't say, well, if the retailer says this, then you say that. See, we actually think that that's the end of the discussion. So all we got to do is just add one more question after you finish the client, the lead, the shopper finished by saying, no, just looking. One more question throws that person off. They do not know how to react. And I will tell you how they're going to react. They're going to react by being stumped and then becoming authentic, or they're going to react by being stumped and hanging up on you because they couldn't handle it. They just didn't know what to say. They froze and like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. And they hang up. It'll be one or the other. But let me tell you what's going on instead. The worst thing has happened. We're falling for the smokescreen. We're not asking the one other question. And that's the same thing. We might as well be the ones hanging up. So I hope that you'll take from this because, I don't know how this is going to resonate with you, this content. I mean, there's way more sexier presentations that I can make to you. I mean, I can probably impress you in other ways, but my job is not to impress you. It's to be effective. It's to get results. I was coaching a few agents in my office this morning, and it's like, well, how many listens did you get in March? 14. Been in the business for 18 months. And here we are trying to figure out how to get two. This stuff is what's working. It's the stuff that's not coached enough. And the reason why, I just want to be clear on why it's not coached enough. Because coaches are in the business of collecting your money. No problem with that. They've collected a lot of mine and continue to do. I love coaches. The challenge is they feel like they've got to constantly bring something new to you, or else you're going to stop paying them. There is nothing new to bring to you. The good coach is the one that continues to repeat the old until you do it. This is the stuff that's going to make you convert. It's going to help you convert. By the way, there are no objections. They're all smoke screens with these leads. Now, when we get into an expired call, there can be objections. I'm not doing it at that price. I'm not lowering that price. I'm not going to your price. I'm not paying this compensation. Those are all kinds of objections. Great. I love those. Those are easier to handle. Objections are easier to handle than smoke screens because smoke screens go undetected. Like when we get an objection, it's like, well, that's clear. Okay, I'm clear where this conversation is going. I know what to talk about right now. But when we get a smoke screen, we don't even know that we're already in this like battle and we have no clue. It's undetected. And next thing you know, we get off the phone like, what happened? But I just want you to understand, don't be preparing on these leads for the objections because there aren't really objections. This is a smokescreen issue. Okay, so I kind of shared with you how you can get some, right? I get some from Easy Home. Get these leads. And we go in there, we call them multiple times. We don't get them, we use multiple attempts. We get them, we avoid the smoke screens, we get in the house as quickly as we can. But if we don't get them, and we never get them, So if we get them and don't get in the house, or if we never get them, build your database. These are documented homeowners that have been putting some thought to selling a home in your marketplace. It doesn't matter to me if they convert in 3 years. I am willing to take a documented owner that raised their hand at some point, was curious, was exploring, put them in my database and build a database off of them. And then when you're building your database, yes, whatever CRM you use, probably a lot of you use a Follow Up Boss. I use Follow Up Boss as well as a few others. Whatever you're using, yes, make sure that you have a good, robust action plan set up so you can drip on them with value. Make sure that they're continuing every single month to get one or two emails about, like a HomeBot or a Fellow type of email where it's offering them some sort of market activity report on their property. Every single person in my database is going to be getting an email of here's what your property's worth. It's just an automatic. They don't have to sign up. It's automatically going to give them a market report on their home. That's going to happen twice a month. An action plan is going to add another email a month. My newsletter with a video explaining the market update is going to be another email a month. You realize that's 48 touches? That was 48 touches. Actually, no. 1, 2, yes, that's 48 touches. Then at a minimum, they're going to be on a call rotation once every 90 days. Now we're at 52 touches. Then I'm going to send them a robust quarterly report every quarter on what went on in the market for the last quarter. First quarter report, 2025, getting ready to go out. We just need a few more days to go by. Another 10 days to go by before the MLS data is accurate. I'll send that out to the entire database. Now at 56 touches. You take these leads that you don't convert initially and you build a massive database. That database then gets put into a 60+ nurturing program. And then what you do is you monitor their engagement. And as they're engaging, you're communicating. So I got them in my database, and then all of a sudden, 4 months later, they hit the I'd like a CMA button. Could you send me a CMA? Well, yes, after I call you. Or they check to look at what their home value is again. They click on the home value again. They don't have to register, they're already registered, but I can tell when they click on the button. It triggers a call. I call them. So you see how this is all working? We take something like this platform, we get all these seller leads, we call them and convert what's convertible at that moment. The ones that are not convertible at the moment, maybe they are the dreamers. We build a massive database off of them. We take that database and we do a 60+ nurture campaign against them. And then we sit back and we watch like air traffic control. We see these thousands of people are getting all these emails and all this stuff. And we see, well, these planes are actually about ready to land. Well, these planes are about ready to take off. These planes are like in the middle of the United States and they're not going to be doing anything. They're going to stay at that altitude for another 4 hours. Don't even need to pay attention to them, but let's pay attention to these. See the ones that are about ready to take off are going to be the home value leads. The ones that are about ready to land are going to be the cash offer leads. So I'm putting my attention there, but I put them all up in the air and I just kick back and monitor them. That's the process for converting these seller leads, online seller leads, at a high volume. Not to impress you, but to just go ahead and make sure that I impress upon you what can happen and what's possible. I will probably take myself 10 listings this month while owning a lot of different companies, and I won't make one outbound call because my database is so big because I did what I'm telling you, what I'm suggesting today, that all of them are going to become list me calls. They're just calling me at this point. Took years to get there, but I want to give you the whole picture. But it doesn't take no more than 6 to 9 months of following what I said religiously before you start getting a come list me call. And then once you start getting them, then they'll be consistent. No, you won't get 10 listings a month anytime soon. That's not what I'm trying to convince you of. That would be BS. But around that 6 month period is when the light bulb goes off. And you're like, oh my gosh, I somebody just emailed me and asked me to call them and they want me to come over and list their property. I mean, this is somebody like that I got from one of these like home seller leads like 6 months ago. And I'm like, well, why are you surprised? I mean, you put gas in the car, you turn the car on and you hit the pedal and the car goes. Like you're not surprised at that, are you? If you put fuel in the tank, you're going to be able to drive the car. There's no surprise. It's like that's what happens, cause and effect. You do take these steps, and I can assure you this is what's going to happen. Travis, I will not have time to critique a call because unfortunately I critique calls. I'm so nitpicky at my critiquing of a call that if I take a 4 minute call, it takes me about 20 minutes to get through on a critique. Okay. So I'd be more than happy one day, because I know you do these Wednesday things, but I'll be more than happy to just next time do nothing more than maybe critique 2 calls and then not do a content around it, if that's cool with you. But I just don't want, I know it's gonna go way too far. But
No,
if any
that would be
wants
awesome, Greg.
Okay. If anybody has any questions or thoughts, I would love to help if there is more time. I'm not sure exactly how long we're going, but I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has any. Or Travis, if you want to dig a little deeper in anything that I was sharing.
Well, first I'll say, Greg, it's pretty cool. Zoom is so visual. I don't know I've ever been on Zoom where someone hasn't shared a screen and 100 people are so engaged. And I think that's super neat. So I want to appreciate that. Somebody asked about the recording, 100%. If you registered for this, we'll email recording. We also will post it in our Facebook group page and send it out in a circle for our partners. But our Facebook group page, Easy Home Search Facebook group, we'll put it there. Um, I'm going to shamelessly plug Easy Home Search. You mentioned us a few times. We do online seller lead generation. We have a brand new platform called Easy Connect. I put a link in the chat for that if you're interested in learning about that. We have single agent plans and team plans. So if you're a smaller team or a single agent or a bigger team, you can check those plans out. It's a pick your own budget type of plan. More than happy to jump on a call with you and see what that looks like for you and your team. Help you grow your seller online lead generation. It's a great pillar for your business. So that's why I wanted to invite Greg. I'd love to hear him talk about it. Something I'm passionate about. I built my real estate business when I had it off online seller leads, and personally, I'll admit, I've copied a lot of things Greg's done for a lot of years because obviously he's a man who's in the trenches and does it every day.
Hey, let me mention. So I think, Travis, I think, and I'll just, I'm full disclosure. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm going to generalize here or give you an estimate, but I think I probably get around 150 seller leads from you guys a month right now. I think there's somewhere in that range, and everything that I just shared is what I'm doing with those leads. And I have other lead sources also, but it's the same process. If it's an online seller lead, the process is very similar. And it really does, the source is not as significant to the process as the process itself. So this is exactly what we're doing with Easy Home. I wanted to mention something else that I forgot to mention. And so I did my own personal audit. And then now most of these lead companies are hooked to the IDX. So it's really easy to, like, when I say 10% conversion rate, like if I would have said that 5 years ago, or if anyone would have said that 5 years ago, you would have a position to argue. Okay. But no longer can you argue because the lead companies are practically all hooked into the IDX. So because they're hooked into the IDX, they have all the sold data and the listing data. So they can match the addresses that they've sent us as leads into the MLS, and they can actually give us the real conversion number. So these are like legit. Just understand these are legit numbers. But I've done my own personal auditing of our leads, and then I've matched it, and they match right in line with what I shared, and and right in line with the companies, what they share. But here's what I found interesting when I audited is the ones that didn't have a good telephone number, or no telephone number, or no email address, they converted at the same rate as the ones that had the good data. There was no difference in the conversion. So there's a lot of leads that come in and it's like, oh gosh, they didn't put an email address, or they put a bogus email address, and they put a bogus telephone number in, but they very rarely put a bogus address in because they're looking for something on that address. So then reverse looking up that information, and I can get all that, their data, call them. What we found is that they converted at the same ratio. So where a certain percent will have bad data, gosh, those are golden. And the reason why they're golden is because there's nobody else calling them. There's no competition on those. Yeah, Ashley, that's what I would do. I would go and reverse look them up on Exact Dial. That's what we do on our in our company, our team. All right. I don't know if I see any other questions, but if there's no other questions, then we'll let everybody go. Let them go get some listings.
Appreciate it, Greg. Thank you for sharing so much value, Greg. Again, we'll get this recording out to you guys. This was absolute fire, Greg. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye. See you, Ryan.